Hi everyone, I am your Regional Bowls Manager for the North and East, Clive Adams, and I'm joined today by the Bowls WA CEO in Ken Pride to have a chat about a few things that have been going on. How are you, Ken?
Morning, Clive. Very well, thank you.
Yeah, we've got a few things to talk about. We've got some announcements to make, we've got some outcomes of the President's Forum and so forth, so a bit to cover.
Yeah, and obviously, given what we've all gone through in the last few months, this is probably the best way we get the information out to club executives, but as well as to the rank and file bowler.
All right, let's get kicking with the Bowls WA AGM.
Yeah, so the AGM is normally held on the last Saturday in July, but constitutionally the board can actually hold it 4 months after the end of the financial year, which is in our case the end of April. So the board made the decision to postpone the AGM until the 29th of August, so Saturday the 29th of August at 10 a.m, purely so we know as much information as we possibly can get in terms of the easing of restrictions and clubs being opened and so on. So I guess taking as much time as constitutionally available so that the decisions that are made at that time are as up to date as we possibly can get.
And of course that'll be one that's familiar to clubs as well. They'll be going through some similar things with their own AGMs.
Yeah, and look, there can be extensions. Obviously, as you know, the RBMs have got the ability to help clubs to extend that time for their AGM, as Bowls WA could. But we believe the end of August, in our case, will be enough to have a better idea of the easing of restrictions and what clubs can and can't do.
All right, there's been, I guess, a bit of talk out there about affiliation fees and so forth. What's happening in that space?
So the board met on the 22nd of May, and this information has gone out to the club executives already. But the association certainly has received a good, strong surplus for 2019-20. Obviously, there was a need to review the budget for this current year, 2021, and to see what reduction of affiliation fees that Bowls WA could give all of our clubs. The first thing though is the proposed 1% increase to metropolitan clubs. That is the total income, remember, for metropolitan clubs has been scrapped. So there's a 0% increase for country, 0% increase for metro as a base. But Bowls WA did receive a fairly significant cash surplus from the federal government in the first of those cash surplus areas of the stimulation package we received. All of that money will get passed on to clubs. So all of those funds will be used to reduce the affiliation fee for the coming season. We'll also had a very positive year in sponsorship. The Perth Suns did well as well, so our income from them was generated a little higher than expected. And there were some government grants that we also received that we received this year, again above budget. So all of that together with some really close looking at our expenses for the coming year, remembering a couple of things that the nationals, the side series, for example, the new nationals 2020-2021 we're going to be up on the Gold Coast in October have been cancelled. So quite a bit of funding towards accommodation and so on we don't have to spend. And of course recently, last week would have been the annual dinner and awards night. And that is a fair cost to Bowls WA on that, so that's also been cancelled. So all in all of those funds will be directed back to our clubs and try and provide a fairly significant decrease in the affiliation fees.
Very good, very good. So of course clubs will be working out their fee structures and so forth as well. So we understand that clubs have been through a tough time, so we ask members to support their clubs, renew your membership when you're asked, and support your local clubs and help them get through this time.
Yeah, and as I said, club executives have got that information, the quite specific information about those reductions, so they may choose to share that with their members. Of course, all of that is on the proviso that we don't get any second wave or and I guess the gradual easing of restrictions that we're seeing now from the state government continue.
All right, last time we caught up, we were talking about the President's Forum and how it was a bit different this year, not able to get everyone into the same room and discuss some of these issues, but the email response has been outstanding. Really strong,
yes. So out of our 65 metropolitan clubs, we've got sort of detailed responses from 52 of those clubs. And that is a larger number than we'd normally receive, in fact, for our face-to-face meetings. So really positive response. Gave us an excellent indication of clubs' wishes, Mathematically, if you like, which we'll go through the percentages in a moment, because obviously some clubs don't have Ladies Tuesday or aren't interested in providing information on some areas of the forum, simply because that didn't suit their club. So we'll go through those percentages in a moment, which I'm sure everyone is keen to hear. But as you say, a really good response, which we're very pleased with.
And of course, just on that, again, the President's Forum's never been a decision-making forum, has it? It's one that's taken for discussion and for advice to the relevant committees.
Indeed, so all the information that we're going to provide in a moment, and this will also be sent to clubs, to club executives again. So all of this information we're about to talk about in terms of the outcomes will go to the various committees, mainly Fixture and Events Committee in our case, and then they'll make a final determination. But as we'll see in a moment, they're fairly black and white in terms of the responses that we've received, which obviously will guide very much that Fixture and Events Committee to the structures we'll face this coming season.
All right, well, let's have a look at them. The Ladies Saturday competition was one of the first ones.
Yes, and in terms of one of the questions that was asked was, and put forward, I think, from Rockingham, Manning and Mosman Park clubs to change the number of ends. So the last year we had 21 ends for the first time. So in this case, 68% of the clubs that responded wished to go back to 18 ends, and 32% want to remain on 21. So almost certainly we will be looking to go back to 18 ends for ladies Saturday afternoon.
Okay, and then what about the length of the competition?
Yeah, there was a submission put forward by Manning to move to from an 8 to a 10 team competition, much the same as most other of our competitions are. Of course, that would then stretch the season out to an 18-week season rather than a 14-week season. That was supported by 76% of the clubs that responded. So an 18-week season, 10-team comp, with 24% wishing to remain as is. The interesting thing with the Ladies Saturday extending to 18, it can happen this year, but that would require an 18-week season, but with an 8-team competition, because promotions and demotions are already squared away. So in other words, you'd play everyone twice, and then some clubs you'd play 3 times. So otherwise that would have to be delayed for a year until the promotions and demotions are set up, so that we can maintain a 10-team competition.
So that'll be one up for a bit more discussion.
Yeah, we'll certainly have a chat with the ladies' clubs involved on Saturday afternoon, and as I said, we can either go to an 8-team competition and do it this year, or delay it for 1 year and go to a 10-team competition in 2021-22.
All right, and the final one for the Ladies Saturday competition was the extreme weather conditions of play, brought up by South Perth.
Yes, and that South Perth was seeking to remove the current condition of play, which of course with the ladies is determined by the previous evening's forecast. So if it's forecast to be 38 degrees or higher at the current time, then the competition on Saturday afternoon is cancelled. South Perth was seeking that to be the same as the men, and that you would go to the venue and then operate on what the temperature was at that time. They didn't get support for that, so 82% of the clubs would want to continue on with the same ruling as it currently is, which is the use of the evening forecast the prior night. 18% supported South Perth. So almost certainly the extreme weather ruling for the ladies will stay the same.
Okay. The Ladies Tuesday competition, there was one item put forward by Manning and Mosman Park regarding the 2 teams permitted in Premier League.
Yeah, that's been in for a couple of years now, in terms of you can only have one side in Premier League. Of course, that also is a rule that goes across the men's competition as well on a Saturday. And the ladies on a Tuesday. That didn't get support from the club, with 85% wishing it to stay as is at the moment, with only one side allowed to be in one club, I should say, allowed in Premier League. So 85% support to leave it as is. So almost certainly again there'll be no change to the number of sides in Premier League for the coming year.
And of course, Ken, one area that's generated a lot of discussion around the place has been the men's midweek competition. What's happening there?
Indeed, and unsurprisingly from submissions received and obviously the comments during the course of the year, Clive, will go back to a 21-end aggregate style format like it has been previously. I think the interesting parts of those questions were the other queries, so midweek start times, jack on the tee, and so on, and some submissions about how many ends we actually play as well on a Thursday, which I'll touch upon in a moment. Although it wasn't a question that we asked, it was offered in some of the submissions. So, first up perhaps, the start time. There were 3 offered, I guess, 1 o'clock, 1:30 and 1:45. That's actually the actual start time. So 7% plumped for 1 o'clock, 61% for 1:30 and 32% for 1:45. So looking at those, it would be a 1:15 roll up for a 1:30 start.
Okay. And what about the jack on the tee? What happens when we have a dead end? This one's close.
Yeah, this is probably the only close one out of the whole exercise, to be honest. So jack on the tee, 52% said they'd like to keep it as jack on the tee, and 48% to count it as a dead end. So look, at the moment, given that we would probably need a fairly strong response to change something rather than keep the status quo, you would think at the moment, looking at that midweek next year would be a 21 end aggregate game, 1:15 roll up for a 1:30 start with the jack on the tee.
All right, so that's those summaries. Was there anything else that came out of the President's Forum responses that you'd like to touch on?
Yeah, as I said, a lot of the submissions were quite varied and wide ranging, which was fantastic. And 3 areas, I suppose, that were particularly noted, although we didn't specifically ask for them, was that 11 clubs had sought an earlier starting time for the ladies on a Saturday, so pull that right back to a 1 o'clock start, for example. So, and there were 11 clubs that supported that. There, as I mentioned a moment ago, there were certainly several clubs that supported 18 ends on a Thursday afternoon, midweek, but probably not enough to warrant change. And the third one was the promotion-demotion finals, of course, which we're looking to play on the 19th of September for those clubs that are involved. And interestingly enough, again, although we didn't seek comment on that because it's a given, 68% were in favour of playing that particular game and 32% obviously against. So there seemed, for those that responded, a fairly strong response to play that 19th of September game. And remembering there's probably only 15 clubs maybe out of the 65 that are involved. So it's quite a small split.
And the full information for those clubs is not far away, is it?
No, in fact, the information of the matchups, if you like, and for those venues that would have a home ground advantage for some clubs, has already gone out.
Okay.
So clubs will have that. For those clubs that would play at a neutral venue, then obviously we're waiting to see what clubs are prepared to provide a neutral venue, and clearly whether September 19 goes ahead, whether they be grass and or synthetic.
All right, let's move on. And you touched on the awards night earlier on when you were talking about affiliation fees. So we're certainly encouraging clubs to still nominate for the Bowls WA Awards. And that occasion, whilst it won't be the big crown dinner, there will be an occasion where those awards will be presented.
Yeah, the board certainly thought it was important to try and congratulate really and recognise those clubs and individuals that really at the end of the day played 95% of the season. Unfortunately, we couldn't get through a couple of the major events, as you know, a couple of state events, the Champion of Champions singles, and also critically the Ladies Country Week, which very much affected the awarding of a Country Bowler of the Year. But we're certainly looking late September, early October for a venue, most likely a bowling club. It'll be a reduced number, maybe 100 people would be invited to go to that. Bowls WA would pick up the cost of that function. And we would certainly provide those awards that we've been able to provide, such as the Rosenthal Medal and so on. Really importantly though, as you mentioned, for those awards that we need nominations for, Clubs of the Year, small and large for Metro and small and large for Country, Volunteer of the Year and so on, Coach of the Year, we are very, very keen to receive nominations for those, and they're open until the 30th of June.
Yeah, and a good opportunity for clubs at the moment, while it's still a little bit quieter, to put together some really good nominations for those awards.
Indeed, as we said, in the men's case, 16 out of 18 fixtures got through. The ladies got all through, apart from the Saturday afternoon finals. Apart from a couple of individual awards, clubs can certainly nominate themselves for those Clubs of the Year. But most importantly, particularly this time of the moment, the Volunteer of the Year. They'd be doing it pretty tough out there, the volunteers, so we'd love to be able to recognise some volunteers on that particular night.
All right, well there you have it. Thanks Ken, and look, the message out there to all of our clubs and to everyone out there, stay safe. Hopefully more restrictions will be lifted, who knows, but at this stage stay safe, and if you need any help with anything that's going on in your club, we are here to help, and that's the key message. So thanks for tuning in and watching us, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Thanks, Clive.